Okay, fine. So earlier when we were creating the bank account, there was some issue, right? So we stopped there and we proceeded with invoice creation. Okay, we have seen how to create invoice with distribution and without distribution set. Okay, in today's session we'll proceed with the bank account creation, and whatever the bank and branch we created already, we'll ignore those bank and branch. In today's session again we'll create bank, branch and account, and rest of setups which are required for payment process. We'll look into all those. Okay, so first we'll go and create the bank. Okay, we know the navigation to create the bank we can create from accounts payables. And when you look into the navigation is setup, payment, banks and bank branches. This is the navigation. Okay, so just click on banks and click on create. Here you can provide the bank is belongs to which country, say India. The bank name I'll say ERPTREE Bank. And here you can provide address and bank contact details, but not mandatory. Just you can say finish. So bank is created. Now we'll create the branch. Click on bank branches and click on create. So bank is belongs to country India.
Battery, please charge.
Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, so select bank name, say ERPTREE, and tab out. Automatically system will select. Then click on continue, and here we can provide the branch name. I'll just write the branch name as ERPTREE branch. Then you can say finish. If you want to provide address and contacts, you can click on next and you can provide it. So now if you want to create the bank account, here we have two options. So against this branch, you can see one icon called as create account icon. You can click on this and you can create bank account. If not, from here we have a navigation. Okay, by taking this navigation, set up payment bank accounts, we can create the bank account. If not this navigation, directly you can create the bank account from bank branch. Right here you can see that. So from anywhere you can create. Okay, you can select here. If you select this, what system will do, it will select country and bank branch details automatically. Just you have to provide bank account information. And if you are taking the navigation from here, you have to select, you have to provide the country, bank, branch name. System is not going to default those information. That's all. That is the difference. The rest of process remains same. Okay, let's go with this. Say create account. So see, this is how system is taking, since we are trying to create the bank account from existing branch record. Just click on continue. Here you can provide the bank account owner. Bank account owner is ERPTREE India legal entity. And this bank account, what are the account we are going to create, we want to use in which applications, say in payables and receivables. And payroll is not relevant to us, so I'm not selecting it. Then click on next. Okay, so how we are getting the legal entity here, because we made this legal entity as a owner for the bank account by doing the setup in user management. And whatever the bank account we are creating, that account we want to use in payables as well as receivables. That's what we are selecting. Then click on next, and here you can provide the bank account name and other information. The bank account name is say ERPTREE corporate account, and you can provide the bank account number. Okay, you can provide the bank account number. Okay, and the bank account currency INR. Okay, other information is optional. Okay, when you are creating bank account, if you have that information, you can provide accordingly. Now click on save and next. So when you are creating the bank account, cash account is mandatory account. Okay, at the time of legal entity, sorry, at the time of primary ledger, we provided one mandatory account, that is retained earnings account. The same way, okay, so cash account is mandatory here. So I'm going to provide the cash account. Just click on search, and we set all these segment values as a default. So system is taking automatically. You can select the cash account here. Click on search, and as per we are using the operations value set, right? We are using operations value set. Within that cash account, the value is 1110, or else you can go on search like this. You can just go to search by description, then you can give the account name as cash. Click on go. So this is the account we require. Select it, then click on create to create the code combination. Select and click on select. And when you perform the bank account bank reconciliation, okay, if you want to do the bank statement reconciliation, so we require cash clearing account also, right? So anyway, we'll do the reconciliation. For that reason, I want to select cash clearing account also here. So just click on search, select search by description, and just search with the term called as cash. It will just provide the values which starts with the cash. So here we have to select cash clearing account, which is required for bank statement reconciliation. We'll talk about P2P accounting entries. At that time you can understand the complete cycle of accounting. Okay, select it as a part of definition. The only cash account is mandatory. Along with that, I am selecting cash clearing account also. Okay, that's all. Here other information not required. When you are working on relevant concepts, will come and will enable and will select the relevant values. That's how we'll be working. But now nothing is required to create the bank account. So now what we have to do is, this bank account we have to assign to specific operating unit. The bank account we have to assign to specific operating unit. Remember, one bank account can be assigned to multiple operating units. One bank account you can assign to multiple operating units. Just click on save and next. Okay, here we have option. See, here also you can see that our account access. This account can be accessed by which organization? Nothing but operating unit. Here we have a tab called as add organization access. Nothing but with this option we can assign the bank account to operating unit. Click on add organization access. Okay, so we are going to assign this bank account to so and so operating unit. Within that operating unit, that bank account can be used in which applications? In specific operating unit. The bank account level we given payables and receivables, but this is specific to operating unit. Say payables and receivables, so I'm selecting here. So you just select your operating unit. So operating unit is ERPTREE Hyderabad operating unit, right? That's what we given. Select it. Just click on continue. Okay, the same information system is defaulting here, which is this will be specific to operating unit, whatever the account system is taking. Just you can click on apply, and if you want to provide bank account contact information, you can click on save and next, and you may just click on create a contact, and you can use the contact person you can provide, but not mandatory. You can say finish. Okay, this is how we can create the bank account. We created bank, we created, and branch we created, and account also we created. So against this account, now we'll go and create the documents. We'll create the documents. Okay, to create the documents, select bank account, and here we have a tab called as manage payment documents. Click on this. Okay, select bank account. Against which bank account you want to create the documents, select that bank account, then click on payment documents, then click on create. Okay, fine. So here You can give the name, say ERPTREE check. I'm giving the document. Which document? Check. Here paper stock, paper stock type, blank stock or pre-numbered stock. As an organization, okay, we can request the banker to provide the stationery in how we require the stationery. Whether we require blank stock means banker will provide the stationery with a blank stock, without any format in that paper, whatever the stationery they'll provide. So we can print the checks on that stationery. That is one option. Otherwise, the pre-printed checks also bank will provide to the organization, and we can print that payment information on the check. So how that organization is proceeding, based on that we can select this option. I'm just selecting as pre-numbered stock. That means we got something like some checkbooks, okay, checkbook information from the bank. Normally when you're working, you can see the case, the organization will get stationery from the bank, which is a kind of a continuous stationery. It won't be separate leaves, so that will be convenient to keep that uh, stationery for printing purpose. That's how we'll be getting. So under format, so when you talk about format, okay, when you talk about format, say check format. Okay, here if you take any one of the check, HDFC, let's take HDFC check. Okay, so take this. So if you look into this check, okay, here it is printed from the system only. It's a printed from system. So if you want to print any check from the system, so anyway, this the names pay to and rupees, and here rupees and date. Okay, this information only based on this here. This is also printed. AC, account payee only. Okay, non-negotiable, and the party name, say supplier name, and rupees in words, and rupees that information, and date. This information is printed from the system. So generally what we do, this check will be inserting into the printer, and the information need to be printed on the check in exact format. See here, when we are going to print the check payment information of the check, what system has to do is, system has to print the name exactly in this row only, pay. So that means what technical people will do is, technical people do some kind of sort of programming. What they do is, they'll be just preparing some layout related measurements. They'll take the measurement, what is the height and width of this physical check what we get from the client, and according to that format they'll be writing the programming, saying that, say this is the first row and second row and third row, this is, say this is a third row. In third row they'll be writing the programming, say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. They'll be writing the programming in third row, or else after this much measurement, in third row after 10 characters the system has to print supplier name. And in the second row, if I take here, this here also one row or else some measurements, here from the right side system has to print the date, because when system is printing the payment information, the check, the supplier name should not come here, right? It has to come here only. That means we have to take some measurements. The same way amount should come in this box only, not somewhere else, right? So that is the reason what we do is, the technical people, we don't need to do that. The technical people, there will be check format which will be provided by Oracle. Within the format, okay, within the format, the technical people will do the alignment. They'll do some based on the measurement. See, this is HDFC check. Okay, HDFC check format may be different from ICICI check format. Okay, so this is how just you can have a different format. The measurements may be totally different. Okay, here we have it.
Laxman, sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. Your voice is breaking in between. not audible.
Mm-hmm. 1 second. No chance because it's, everything is fine. So if that is only in your case, I request you.
Even I am facing the same problem.
Oh, okay.
Even me too.
Fine, fine, got it, got it.
Even same here, Laxman.
Okay, okay, fine, yeah, got it. Just fine, fine. Then what to do? I don't have any other option because the internet connectivity is very good. So we have a just excellent strength, signal strength. It says excellent, and we don't have any issue with that. Okay, 1 second. Okay, we'll see. Still, same issue. We'll look for some any workaround which is possible. Fine. So this is just these are the standard check formats. So when we are going to print payment information, the check, that payment information need to be printed in the exact what I can say exact allocate. I mean space. Exact position like within the check where exactly that has to be printed and the respective area only that has to be printed. For that, what we do is technical people what they do is they'll be aligning the format. Oracle will provide the standard check format. Okay, that format they'll be changing by writing the programming. Okay, by using the XML publisher, they'll be doing the modifications. So once the technical people prepare the format, say for example you have one HDFC check and one, say for I mean to say your client for whom you are implementing, say they have one HDFC bank account and other one ICICI bank account. So definitely there will be slight change at least between the ICICI and HDFC check formats. As per the formats, they have to create the check format within the system. That is a technical job. We don't need to do anything. So once they create format based on the actual check measurements, that format we have to assign to this document creation type. Here we have to select the format. When you are working, the technical people will create the formats. Those formats you can select here. But now for our testing, we can use the format called as standard, which is provided by Oracle. Working time will be selecting here. Say for example, you created a bank account called as HDFC, and when you are creating the documents for HDFC, you have to select check format as format called as HDFC check format. Okay, that's how you can select, since your technical people will prepare it for you. Okay, so for now here you can select standard check format, which is a predefined seeded one, which provides this is provided by Oracle. Okay, select it. Standard check format, remember. Okay, fine. Standard check format, this is the one we have to select. Fine. Any question here, please? What I'm trying to say is you'll be having the stationery in your printer, and from the system the payment information need to be printed on the stationery as per the format. For that reason, what are the measurements and all will be taken care by technical people. Accordingly, they'll create the format. The format will carry the information from the payment record that will be printed exactly as per check format, whatever we are just placing in the printer. Any questions here, please? Okay, fine. Now when you get a checkbook or checks from the banker, so what is the number and all, everything you have to maintain here. First available document number, I'll say 1, and say we have up to 1000 checks, and first and last available document numbers you can specify here. Okay, after giving this information you can say apply. So our documents will be ready, payment documents will be ready, created. Okay, so as a part of bank account only we are
Hi, Laxman, one doubt here. If we have selected the pre-numbered checks option, then why do we need to select the document numbers again from 1 to 1000?
1 second. So this is what you are referring, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, pre-numbered, just for the information which documents. Remember, these numbers are not going to be printed on the checks. Okay. Just this is the information which will be managing within the system. Say, outside of the system, use the 10 checks. That means 1 to 10. Take simple example. When you use checks from 1 to 10, the same information you should have in the system also, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
I am not giving these numbers to print, okay, to track.
Okay.
Yeah. See here, if you see here, okay, you'll be having the check number. Okay. I think the number is not coming, negotiable and all. You have a just check number. 1 second. So code and all, I don't see those numbers. Yeah, here. So you have a check number here. Okay. So this number will be printed. Okay, printed here already in the check. So when we are going to print the exactly first check, okay, check number 1, we have to make sure that, okay, the check, whatever, how many checks we are consuming from the system also. I mean, from system, how many, I mean, we should be able to track how many checks are printed. So what are the number I'm giving in the system that won't get printed? If you go with the option called as this, blank stock, then the numbers which I'm giving, those will get printed. If you are going with this option just for tracking purpose. Okay, by seeing the system, I can understand, okay, 50 checks are used. The next check number may be 51. That means 50 checks are used. That's what I can understand. Okay, when you are making the payment, system will be giving, okay, the next check number is going to be 10, 20, 30. Say system is saying check number 30, but the accountant doesn't know which check he has to use for printing. So in that case, by referring the system, okay, next check should be 30. So accordingly, that stationery has to insert the sequence they can follow, and that's how that we can cross check and we can keep the information properly inside our system and outside of the system. Only that is a purpose, not for printing purpose. Okay, done.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And the next point here is payment process profile. Okay, if you want to make the payment, okay, if you want to make the payment, so you'll have a certain rules or conditions. So rules and conditions to make the payment. Okay, it's see simple point. Payment process profile. To process the payment, which profile will be following? That means which conditions, okay, which parameters or which rules you follow, those you can define by using the payment process profile. When we are going to create the payment process profile, we'll see how to create, but just for your simple understanding, I can say by using the payment process profile, you can set certain criteria. I'll set some criteria, certain parameters. Within those parameters only payment can be processed. Okay, we'll go and see how to create it. While we are creating, you can understand what is the purpose of this payment process profile. Without payment process profile, you cannot make the payment. You may have invoice ready and you may have bank account ready. You may have funds within that. So still within the system to process the payments, we require payment process profile. Without payment process profile, you cannot process the payments in the system. Okay, we'll see that. So take the task name as create payment process profile. Okay, take the task name as create payment process profile. Okay, so take the navigation here, same navigation, same, just function is different. Setup payment administrator. We have to go to payment administrator. Okay, so navigation is setup payment administrator. Take this navigation. Okay, the payment administration will have a task related to payment process profile. This is our task, payment process profile. Okay, so we discussed one point. Okay, we discussed one point like so There will be formats, and Oracle is providing the standard check format. That format only technical people will align as per the actual check format which we are going to use for printing. So those formats you can find here. Here we have a format. We no need to do anything. Just for your information, I'm showing. Tomorrow when you are working, you may have technical consultant. If they are not aware of these formats, at least you can show them. Here is the format. You can go and change it. Okay, the payment administration, you can see here. See here we have a formats. You can go to, just click on go to task icon, and which format we selected for our payment documents creation. What is the format name we selected? Anyone? Standard check format. Okay, you can search for it. I'll show you how that looks like. That's what I'm just saying. Yeah, this is the one, right? Standard check format. I select a name, automatic system is defaulting the code, and click on go. Okay, the first one, click on update. From here also you can go to the template. Okay, just 1 second. Here, from here also I can just open. Here we have this XML publisher template. You can just click on that. Okay, click on that XML publisher template. Here you can see the file. This is a file. Okay, RTF file. Just click on this, the format. This is a seeded format. Open this. We no need to do anything, just I am showing for your information. This is a seeded one. Okay, by using the XML publisher tool, technical people will do the changes. See here, payment amount, etc., etc. There will be coding here. Okay, if you click on that, the certain properties and all, it will open. Double click, it will open the properties. But by using the XML publisher, they'll do the required changes. And if they want to send some instruction also against that, the payee name, other information also, that can be used as per how the what information need to be printed, how we are printing, going to have a payment stationery. Accordingly, this can be modified by technical people. But just you have this information where you can show to the technical people if required when you are working in the project. That's it. Okay. So what navigation we are taking? Setup payment administrator. In the payment administrator, okay, we have a task called as formats. There you can find the formats. Once you create the format from here, okay, we means technical people. That format only we have to select at the time of payment documents creation. Okay. Even payment as a part of payment process profile also will be selecting it. Okay, now anyway we'll go and create the payment process profile. Okay, this is the task, right? So against the task, click on go to task icon. Just click on go to task icon. Now click on create. Just click on create. So here you can give the code, say ERPTREE. Since code always I prefer to give underscore, and I use always uppercase. Payment process profile. The actual name I'll be writing as ERPTREE. I'll just copy and paste this name, payment process profile. Okay, ERPTREE payment process profile. And here you have to select the same format. What are the format you selected in the payment document definition time? The same format you have to select. Okay, before you go and select how you are processing the payment, that processing type also you can select. Here processing type, how you are going to make the payment, through electronically, EFT or check. The method you can select here. Say I'm going to select printed, means I'll be using the checks. Okay, select processing type. According to the fields will get changed. Here you can select your payment format, that is nothing but standard. And when you're working for each and every bank account, they'll be creating the separate formats. So for which bank account you are creating this definition, you can select accordingly. This is the one, standard check format. And default payment document you can set here if you want to set, or else there you can select. If you want to set default printer, once you make the payment, Okay, by using this payment process profile, automatically system has to print that check in which printer. Okay, so these are all information you can specify if required. Nothing required here. Just I am selecting ERPTREE check, right? Document we created as ERPTREE check. Okay, done. Now here we can set the usage rules. Okay, these are the controls we can set in the system. See here, payment methods. So when you are making the payment process profile is required. So this payment process profile you want to use for specific payment method or all payment methods. So all means it will, when you are making the check payments or any other payments, you can use this payment process profile. If you go and specify this payment process profile can be used only for check payments. This can be used only for check. This is how you can select. Okay, this is how you can limit this payment process profile usage. The same way, when you are making the payments by using this payment process profile, you can process the payments through which bank account. You may specify. By default, we have as all. That means when you are making the payment through any bank account, this payment process profile can be used. That is the meaning. If you want to limit this payment process profile to process the payment for specific bank account, you can select that bank account here. You may select it, your bank account. ERPTREE corporate account, right? Okay, why this bank account is not coming? Just click on go. Basically the value should come. It's not coming just when you're practicing. Just try it. But there is no issue now. We are going with any bank account. But basically the value should come. It's not populating. Here also you can go and specify this payment process profile can be used within the operating unit or for specific legal entity. Okay, that's how you can select. You can click on organization for specific operating unit or legal entity level. You can specify how you want. Okay, and again here a currency also. By using this payment process profile, you want to process the payments for specific currency or all currencies. If you want to limit this payment process profile usage for specific currency, in that case you can go and select the currency. Okay, this is how just you can select. So these are the different options we have. That is the use of, this is how the payment process profile will control the process when you are processing the payments. Okay, basically our bank account should come here, but it's not populating, but we don't need to worry about it. That
I'm not clear on the first party organization.
Sorry,
I'm not clear on the party organization.
Party organization means here
First party organization.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. So first party organization can be your operating unit or legal entity. Okay, say for example, if I give one legal entity, under that legal entity, if you are going to have a 5 operating unit, this bank account, this payment process profile can be used across those 5 operating unit. Or else, as a first party organization, you can select your operating unit. That means you can process the payments through that operating unit. Okay, only through that within that operating unit only you can use this payment process profile. That's how it's limiting. Okay, for which operating unit this payment process profile can be used, or else at what legal entity level. Okay, so the first party means those organization, all our organization classifications only, including the business group also. The what I can say is operating unit and legal entity falls into first party organizations. Just normally it's organizations. Okay, so just the given naming convention as a first party organization. That's all. Okay, so this is how just you have to specify all this information. However, you need the controls accordingly. You can set by using the usage rules. After providing this information, you can just say apply. your payment process profile will be ready. Okay, because we went to drop down options this, and that's how we tried in different way. That is the reason it got errored out. Okay, so that is only the reason why system was not displaying the value also. We'll try again. Since there is a web page, okay, it's very sensitive. That is the reason it was not displaying. Just sign out. So when you are working on this kind of web pages, we get this sort of experience sometimes. Okay, no issues. Just will go and redo that. Setup, payment administrator. So task name is payment process profiles. Click on go to task icon. Here just search with that name. Any chance it is saved? No, it's not saved. Now you can just click on create. Same you can provide. You want to process through check payments. Here says standard. If you want to set default payment method, you can set, otherwise you can just ignore. And here you may set usage rules. Now let's try, it should come. Yeah, it's coming. Just only the form level there is some issue. It's getting stopped because we are trying opening and closing different search fields. That is the reason it's not coming. If you want to limit this bank account, this payment profile usage only for this bank account, you can select it. Okay, that's how you can proceed how you need. Okay, now I'm going with just all option. Okay, now you can say apply. It should be saved. Done. Your payment process profile is created. So done. So what we are trying to do through payment process profile, we are setting the control. The payment process profile can be used across the which operating units are for which currency payments, for which bank account, okay, for which operating units are legal entities. These controls we can set up by using the payment process profile. Already we opened AP periods, right? We opened AP periods and we created invoices also, right? Now we'll see how to make the payment. Okay, we'll see payment process now. So go to the application. Now we'll see how many invoices we created already. Okay, so to find the existing invoices, navigation is invoices, entry, invoices. Okay, invoices, entry, invoices. You can go with this navigation. It will open the invoice workbench. From here you can go with this find option. You can by giving the supplier name, other details, you can search, or else you can go with the query mode. Okay, F11 you can give the invoice number, you can query. Okay, instead of going with this process, okay, we have a separate navigation also. So invoices, inquiry, invoices. This navigation also you can take. There will be a lot of information which you can provide, and you can search with that criteria. So we have a supplier called as ERPTREE. Give the provide supplier name, and you can click on find. With this supplier, what are the invoices we have in the system, it will display. Just click on find. So we have two invoices, right? The two invoices we created, one invoice through manual distribution, the other invoice we created with distribution set. Now let's take first invoice. The first invoice, the amount is 1 lakh rupees and the amount paid is 0. And if you want to know the due date for that invoice, you can just go to schedule payments. Here you can see the due date. Due date is, okay, 17th March. Okay, 17th March is the due date. Okay, we'll try to make the payment today. Okay, if you want to make the payment for an invoice, what you can do is we can follow the simple process. Okay, so this is just from, this is invoice, we want to make the payment. Okay, now just it's all about this form is inquiry, where you can inquire, you cannot do any action on this. This is just to find out the invoices. Now if you want to make the payment for this invoice, now you can go to the actual invoice workbench only, invoices, enter invoices, Okay, so here you can find invoice from here. If you want to take any action on that invoice, ERPTREE find, you can find the same two invoices. Now the first invoice we want to, for first invoice we want to process the payment. So to follow this process, select the invoice. And one more point, remember, if you want to make the payment for an invoice, it's not mandatory you arrive the due date or you cross the due date. It doesn't matter. At any point of time, you can make the payment. Say I created invoice due date is after 1 month, but still if I want to make the payment, I can go ahead and I can make the payment. That is possible. There is no control on that. Okay. So if you don't want to allow someone to make the payments, you can place that invoice on the hold. You can place some hold on the invoice. So I'll say, okay, some reason. I'll specify the reason. So if I specify the reason, system won't allow us to process the payment. Okay. Say you have some issue with the supplier. I selected supplier. Okay. I'm just saving it. Now if I try to make the payment, I cannot make the payment for this invoice. That's how I can control the invoice from payment. And if I want to make the payment for that invoice, this hold whatever I placed, I have to remove it by giving some reason. Okay. It's approved by finance department. Manual I may specify, but approval process will be separately. But here reason. One reason maybe you don't have funds, you may place the invoice on hold, and other reason to release that hold is funds are available. Okay, or else it's there is issue with the supplier, you are placing the hold on the invoice instead of going ahead with the payment process, and you may release that hold to make the payment by saying issue got resolved. Okay, so this is how you can set a control on the invoice from payment. Okay, anyway, now we have invoice. So we'll see how to make the payment for this invoice. So select invoice. Okay, select invoice, then go to actions. Select invoice, then go to actions. Okay, so here we have a checkbox called as pay in full. Select this checkbox. So we are going to make the payment for this invoice, so I'm selecting the checkbox called as pay in full. Then click on OK. Now system will take us to payment workbench. Now we are in invoice workbench. Now automatically system will take us to payment workbench to process the payment against this invoice. Okay, select enable pay in full option, then say OK. Okay, done. See here system is defaulting supplier name and it is taking the payment type. Already discussed we have 4 type of payments. If you see here, you can see manual, quick and refund. And APR netting you don't see directly here. When you are doing the process, then only you can see. So by default, automatically system is taking the type as quick. That means this payment can be printed from the system. That is the meaning of that. From the invoice only system, you see here a payment. We are in the payment workbench. Okay, we are in the payment workbench. So system copied trading partner supplier information from the invoice workbench, from the selected invoice, and the supplier site also got selected. Okay, and just we have to select on which date we are going to make the payment. Okay, just click on this LOB and select the payment date, today's date. Automatically system is taking 1 lakh. The reason, here already invoice got selected. By selecting the invoice only, we navigated to payment workbench. Automatically system will copy the invoice amount as a payment amount. But this process you can follow if you are going to make the full payment only. If you are going to make the partial payment, we have separate process. Okay, now you have to select by using which bank account you want to make the payment. You have a bank account called as ERPTREE, right? So ERPTREE corporate account, just as selected. Now payment method. Okay, payment method is check already. Invoice level, system got selected. Since invoice supplier site level you selected as a default payment method, check. Now if you want to make the payment with other method, you can change to other method, maybe electronic or whatever, wire. Okay, bills payable, you can select a relevant method. It's possible. And here we have to select the payment document. So payment document we created as ERP check, right? So just type ERPTREE, and here it will be generating many values. Here just drag little right, and you can go with the combination of our payment process profile. Automatically it will create for whatever the payment process profiles are available for all. System will create the system will map our payment document, so you can go with whatever the payment process profile we created. So this is a payment process profile which we created, right? ERPTREE payment process profile, and this is the document which we created. Select this combination, the document payment document name and your payment process profile combination you have to select and say okay. Now see, system using the document as one. Okay, when you are creating this document ERPTREE check, we given starting number as a 1. The same system is taking here. Okay, that's all. This is the information we have to provide. That means we have complete information to which supplier we have to pay, in which address. Okay, and what is the payment date, how much amount we are going to pay, from which bank account we are going to pay, and what is the check we are going to use. When you see check here 1, the accountant may insert the stationery which has check number as a 1. So that is the meaning of that. Okay, this is not going to be printed on the check, so it should match what you are using in the system and outside of the system. That has to match. That's all. This information we given. Now if you want to record the payment for this invoice, simple process is just save it, Control S, then system will convert this record as a payment. The payment record you can see below. Here it will create the payment record. Once you save it, system will create the payment. Done. Payment is created. Okay, payment is created. Now if you want to create accounting entries for this payment, go to actions. Here also we have create accounting. Okay, and you can go with the final or final post. And remember, without creating accounting for invoice, you can make the payment. Okay, without creating accounting, you can make the payment for invoice, but without creating the accounting for invoice, you cannot create accounting for payment. Okay, if you want to create the accounting entries for payment, before that you have to create the accounting entries for invoice also. After creating invoice, then only you can create for payment. Okay, so this is how just you can say just okay. Okay, so if you are going to just if a printer is everything is configured within this, okay, you can enable print remittance advice, and you can select the relevant program which you just created in the system with respective format. Then once you just say okay, system will be automatically printing that check also from the printer or respective system instrument. Okay, so that's how it works. So I'm selecting create accounting, say final post, then say okay. Now if you want to see the accounting entries for this payment, the same process like earlier we have seen that. We'll go to tools and we'll say view accounting, and I'll see accounting has been successfully created for this transaction. Say okay. Okay, now you can go to tools and say view accounting. So invoice, what is accounting entry? Whatever the account you are giving in the distribution, that account will be debited, liability account will be credited. So when you talk about payment, the liability account will be debited and cash account will be credited. Okay, that again depends on whether you want to do the reconciliation or you don't want to do reconciliation. Accounting will be differed. That will be discussing as a part of P2P accounting entries. Okay, for now here you can see simple accounting as liability debit, cash is credit. So this is our system will create the accounting entries for the payment. Okay, done. So this is the payment workbench. I am closing. Now you can requery this invoice. You can see the status as paid. As of now, still you can see as 0 amount is paid. Just requery. Okay, just it's hanging. Just we can, but you can close it. I'll just reopen. Yeah, now it's okay, I guess. Yeah. So you can see 1 lakh paid. You can see that the payment details here. View payment. How many times you paid? Only one time. On 23rd we made the payment. Payment method is check. The payment amount is 1 lakh. From here, if you want to see that payment records, you can click on payment overview. It will show that information. Okay, all the details you can see. Invoice number and which date, how you paid, quick payment, what is the payment status, negotiable. Negotiable means before you go and do the bank statement reconciliation, till the time the payment status would be negotiable. Once you do the reconciliation, the payment status will be changed to reconciled. Remember, all these points are very, very important. So everything is important. What we are discussing important. Please focus on everything. Okay, done. So this is how we can make the payment. Now so when we are working in the project, sometimes what happens is we have to, not only from the front end, from back end also we have to look into the information because of some different reasons. We'll talk on that more detail level when and why. So here I want to know that, okay, where this information is getting stored, in which table. Okay, if you want to know this data is going to stored in which table, you can just place the cursor in this any one of the field of this invoice workbench. Okay, and just go to help and say select record history. Select record history. Okay, so system is showing who created this invoice, when they created, including the timestamp, and this invoice will be stored in the database which table, AP invoice V. Okay, it is getting stored in the V. So basically the information will be stored in AP invoices all. This table it will be stored. Say a simple example, within this table we have a 50 columns. 50 columns. 50 columns. AP invoice all table we have. So within that 50 columns we have, but for user all columns may not be required, because once you create invoice, system will create automatically invoice ID. Invoice ID you no need to see from front end, that has to be stored in the back end only. So for that reason, what Oracle is doing is, if Oracle is going to give you the access to AP invoice all, you can go and see 60 columns. On top of the table, what Oracle will do is they'll create the view. V stands for view. V stands for view. Okay, generally the users who are working creating the invoices, from here, for them, how many columns information they may require when they are looking into database, with those few columns only Oracle will create the view. So in this view, actual table is this, AP invoices all. Within that 50 columns we have, generally the guys who are working, the user or say accountant who is working on the invoice process, hardly they require 30 columns only. 30 columns. In that case, what they do is they'll create the view, okay, which allows the users to see only 30 columns out of these 50 columns which are there as a part of AP invoices all. This is actual table name. Say within the table we have 50 columns, but generally users require only 25 or 30. So how many generally require? Those only they'll be including, and they'll be creating the view. From this view, okay, from this view, if you see this, if you try to see the data related to invoice data, you can see 50 columns only. But with this table name, if you go and query the data from database, you can see the 50 columns. That's how it works. Okay, so this is how it works. So these are just simple points to understand. Just I'll show you. If you want to query the data, normally we have to get experience with that. In the further classes I'll talk on this more. Okay, so just for your information, so you don't need to get into too much technical and all. I'll show you the simple process. So if you want to query the data, from the database, we'll use some front-end tools. Okay, the best tool which generally we use is Toad. Okay, I'll just ask the DBA to provide access to Toad also. Okay, for now just I'm showing you, later it will be given to you also, you can work on that. This is the tool. Okay, this tool we can, through this tool we can connect to the database. In our database, whatever the data we have, we can query and see through this tool. Just give me a minute, it is getting connected. Okay, basically to access the entire database, our Oracle database will be using the username or schema as apps apps, and password also apps apps. And database you can use this, since this is a vision instance, and you can say connect. Username is apps, password also apps, database is vision database, connect. So now this tool will get connected with our database. Just ignore it, this message. Connected, you can say connected. Okay, here you can see that's connected. Apps at the rate wish. That means as an app schema, we connected to database called as wish. Okay. So we know like where we have the data. Okay, here as per the table name, this is the AP invoices V. So actually you can treat it a table, but reality it's not a table. This is built on the table. Okay, fine, we'll go with this only, what Oracle given, AP invoices V. Through this table, reality this is a view, but let's call it as table. Okay, through this table you can go and see the data which is there in the database. So how to see? So simple statement you can write, say select, because these are the terms which are part of SQL language. Okay, I'll say select. Okay, select in the sense, general meaning we can understand as show. What we are trying to ask the system to show, what are the data we have in AP invoices V table, right? AP invoices V table. Within that table we have many columns. If you want to see specific column name you can write here. If you want to see all columns, put star mark. Put star mark. Select star mark means the meaning is show all columns. Show all columns which are there in which table? Say AP invoices V. This is a table. Just we are requesting the system. We are sending a request to system saying that select star AP invoices V, means show all the columns which are there in this table. So if you write directly, it won't work. You have to use another term which is SQL reserved term called as from. Okay, so select means show. The star mark, asterisk mark means all. Show all columns from which table? So and so table. This is how you can give. Okay, and you can use control enter. It will fetch the records, all the records which are there in this table, and it will display in one go. All you can export into Excel also. Okay, let's go. It's not within this, nothing we have. So I'll go with the actual table name. It's all, it should be all. Okay, they given display like that. Okay, AP invoices all. This is the actual table name. See, within this table we have all the data. These are all the invoices which we have. Okay, this is how just you can connect any one of the front-end tool and you can write a simple syntax. Later we'll take you through a few more syntaxes. This we call as one of the syntax. Okay, So this is how just we can have here. This is how we can query the data and who is updated on which date, etc., etc. All the information we can see. Again, here we have a lines. If you want to see the invoice lines information, select the line, go to help, say record history. So here it is showing this lines information will be stored in this table. AP invoices lines view. V means view. Sometimes they don't store any data in the view. Okay, data will be stored in the table only. Even they have view, they may not give you the option of viewing the data from that respective view. That is the reason always we'll go with the table name. So here you can keep all. That is the actual table name. So the AP invoices all, the header information will be stored, and we have other table called as AP invoices. Okay, invoice, you say invoice lines all. Okay, so this is the table name, AP invoice lines. Here in the place of V you take all, that will represent table. Okay, all. So I'll talk about what is the meaning of all. So you can take this table, and if you want to see the data which is there in the AP invoice lines all, you can just paste here, use control enter. So these many lines we have within our system. I'll show you step by step process how to export this into Excel and all those things we'll see. But now as an introduction, this is how I'm taking all these points. Okay, so in which table, in any table, if you find the table ends with all, that means always try to understand the table will store the information which is specific to operating unit. Okay, operating unit specific data will be stored in multiple tables, but the table ends with all always specifies within this table data will be stored which will be specific to operating unit. That is the meaning of that. Okay, so just very basic knowledge we require on this, nothing much. Anyway, throughout our sessions we'll just go through in the same way. It's a simple, for now you can understand these simple points. AP invoices lines all. Okay, I'll give you, list out you all the tables, and I'll give you when you're practicing, you may just run these statements and you can look into that, and we'll go with some conditions also which are very very simple. Okay, fine. So we'll try in this way. So this is how just we created invoice and we process the payment. Now we have another invoice. So the invoice number is 00001111. So if you want to make the payment for this invoice, from here you can pay, right? You can go to actions and select pay in full. Then you can say okay, it will take us to payment workbench. You can process the payment. But if you don't want to make the payment from here directly, you can navigate to payment workbench. Just take the point as create payment from payment workbench. Create payment from payment workbench. Before we move to that payment creation from payment workbench, if you have any questions, please. Any questions?
Can we do partial payment as well?
Yeah,
or is only derived by the terms?
Yeah, we can do that. In that case, if you want to do the partial payment, you should have a schedules. Okay, you should have a schedules. When you have a schedules, you can do the partial payment. Even if you may not have a schedules as a part of your payment terms, still we have options. See here, I am selecting this invoice. I'll go to schedule payments. If I look at this invoice, I have only one schedule. That means one time I can pay. But still we have a flexibility here. I can make the schedules. These schedules are coming as per our payment term. Our payment terms is net 30. Okay, within 30 days means 16th April we have to pay. As per payment terms, system will just create the schedules. But if you want to change the schedules, you can do that. Say I'm changing here 15,000 only you have to pay on 16th April. Remaining amount 30th April 17 and 10,000. This is how you can change. Save it. Now two schedules we have. Now I can make only 15,000 from here, not from invoice level. Don't select invoice level. Now if you want to make the payment for the only this schedule, you select this, only this. Then you can go with this. Okay, specific invoice. I think it's just we changed. Just 1 second. Schedule payments. See here, I selected one schedule and I can click on pay. Now system will allow us to pay only 10,000. Now this will get connected to that one schedule payment. It will take us to payment workbench. Here we can make the payment for only 10,000. Select today's date. 10,000 only it is selecting. ERP check. Select your payment process profile. You can make the payment. System is using the check number 2. Then save it. System will record the payment for 10,000. Now you can just go back here, and if you look into that invoice, it will show 10,000 is paid. You have to re-query that invoice. Right, I'll do that. So it shows 10,000 is paid against this invoice, second invoice. And if you go to schedule payments, you can see the same. So that is already the amount is 10,000 is paid. If you look into that here, not this one, which is the first one. Sorry, first one. Because there we have only 10, right? Here we made the schedule. You can see here. So if you go to general, you can see pay 10,000 is paid. If you look into the payment schedules, okay, you can see these 2 schedules. This is already paid. Okay, already. If I select this 15,000, is showing that amount remaining 15. If I select this, amount remaining 0. That means it's a paid. The amount paid is 10,000. If you select this, okay, the paid amount is nothing. It's not changing. Okay, here remaining amount of this overall amount is showing us how much is paid against the invoice. That's how it is showing. Okay, this is how you can split and you can make the payment. Clear? Okay. Now anyway, we'll see how.
Currently we do not have any printers, but if in real time, if we perform these steps, a check will be printed.
Yeah, check will be printed. Once you save it, automatically check will be printed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So so now we'll see how to make the payment directly from the payment workbench. But till now we are going with the actions pay in full and all, instead of doing that. Okay, we'll go to the directly payment workbench. Anyway, we have one invoice which partially paid, remaining 15,000. We'll try to make the payment. Okay, take simple point, create the payment from payment workbench. Create payment from payment workbench. Just take the navigation. Okay, please make a note of all these points. So let's see how to make the payment from payment workbench. We have seen so far we are making the payment for invoice from invoice workbench. Means from invoice workbench means we are navigating from invoice workbench to payment workbench. Now directly we are going to payment workbench. From there we'll select the invoice and we'll select the supplier, all the information, and we can make the payment. We'll see this process. So navigation is payments, entry, payments. Okay, payments, entry, payments. Fine. So here you can select, we are going to make the payment to supplier. So ERPTREE Corporation. So on which date we are going to make the payment, select payment date. By using which bank account we are going to process the payment, select bank account. And remember one point, invoice currency and payment currency should be same. You cannot go with the scenario invoice in one currency and payment in the different currency. Say you are running the business in India. So if you create invoice in INR, payment should be in INR only. Even if you are running the business in India, you can have invoice and payment in different currency, but both should be in same. That's important. It's not mandatory, it should be in functional only. It can be foreign, but invoice and payment currency should be same. So system is defaulting this payment method from the supplier side, and here you can select your payment document along with your payment process profile. Right, select it. System is going to use check number 3. That's all. Okay, Now any other information we have to select to make the payment? Anyone? To make the payment for any invoice, do you think any other information we have to select here?
Yeah, in actions,
No.
pay full.
No. My simple question is, to make the payment for an invoice, do we need to select any other information?
We need to select payment tabs.
Sorry?
The invoice number.
That's
Invoice
it.
number.
That's all. Invoice we have to select. Yep, that's what I'm looking for. It's known, it's well known for everyone, but just I want to see as answer. Okay, now I given all the information to whom I want to pay, what is the supplier site, okay, by using which bank account, on which date I want to make the payment. Everything is selected. I want to make the payment for which invoice. We have to select the invoice. So earlier, we selected invoice from the invoice workbench and we navigated to payment workbench. Because of that reason, we no need to select invoice. Now here directly we navigated to payment workbench. Here we are providing to whom we want to pay and by using which bank account, all the details. Now we have to select for this against the supplier, you will be having invoices, right? For which invoice we want to process the payment, that we have to select. Now here we have a tab called as enter or adjust invoices. Click on this. Now select invoice number. Click on LOV and give percentage and say find. We selected supplier, only that supplier invoices only will get displayed here. Click on find. Okay, we have only one installment against this invoice. Actual invoice amount is 25,000, but we split it. The 25,000 we split it into 2 installments intentionally, right? Even that is not there in the payment term for our understanding. So now system is showing from the invoice number 0000, and we have only the one installment, the amount is 15,000. Just say okay. Now just save it. System will record this invoice as a payment. Done. Close it. Then go to actions and create accounting. Say final post. Then say okay. So that's all. This is how just you can make the payment. With any reason, if you want to void the payment, you can do that. If you can initiate the stop, you can reissue. Say you are printing, okay, you are just doing the printing and the stationery got spoiled, okay, now again you want to print the same payment. In that case, you can reissue that check against the same, and you issued the check, you want to stop the payment initiative, okay, you can do that. Or else you paid by mistake to wrong supplier. In that case, you can go with the void option. When you are voiding the payment, what action you want to take on the invoice? You want to cancel the invoice, or else you have to place that on, or else just you want to void the payment only, so that like an invoice will remain same, again you can process the payment. That's how these actions you can perform on that. Okay, so these are the different options which you have. Like, you paid for this invoice, but you want to initiate stop, you want to send an instruction, just you inform to supplier, you just made the payment, and you given the printed checks and given to the supplier. Now you are passed information to banker saying that on so and so check number, okay, here we are using check number 3, please stop the payment. You informed the same, you have to track in your system. So here it will say initiate stop. Okay, so that's how just you can perform various actions on the payment also when you are doing it. Okay, so this is all about how to make the payment from payment workbench directly. Okay, so any questions here, please? Fine, so no questions. Okay, fine. Now just see, this is a simple process to understand how invoices we can create in or I can say in payables, and how you can process the payments. So just for basic understanding, but reality, when we are working for any company, just they don't create an invoice directly in the payables. Okay, they don't create invoices directly in the payables. Always the invoice they'll be creating based on purchase order or receipt information, or else they'll be creating invoices automatically in the payables based on purchase department related information. Okay, So this is what we have to understand before we get into that P2P cycle where we go and create requisition and approvals, purchase orders, receipts, okay, invoice creation based on the PO and receipt. We'll understand few points. As a part of setups, we just taken few notes, right? Let me take you through those points. Okay, fine. These we have, and just I'm going through whether I written here or not. Fine, seems to be in right.
Laxman, why is
Your voice is breaking out.
Okay,
it
one
really
second.
breaking?
Fine, one second. Okay, let's see how it works now. Okay, fine. So here, so before we get into that actual process, we'll see. We'll try to understand few points. Just anyone, please tell me what are the different matching options we have. What are the different type of matchings we have? Anyone, please.
Two-way, three-way, four-way.
Okay, two-way, three-way, and four-way. And another question is, what are the different receipt routing methods we have?
We have total 3.
Okay.
Direct delivery, standard receipt, and inspection required. Those we can find in inventory inventory options.
Yeah.
In
Fine. That's all. Yeah. So, so those are the simple points we discussed, because before we get into the P2P cycle, if you have some understanding about that, it will be very easy for us to get into the process. Okay. So let me write the same points here, what we discussed. So receipt routing methods. Receipt routing or routing methods. We have 3 methods. One is direct delivery. Another one is standard receipt. Third option is inspection required. Okay, first we'll talk about these receipt routing methods. So when you talk about these receipt routing methods, it's very simple. Okay, so what this receipt routing method says is how we are going to receive the material into our organization. That's all. Okay, how we are receiving when you purchase some material from the supplier, what is the process we are following to take that material into organization, that can be defined by this receipt routing method. First we'll talk about direct delivery. Take simple point here. I think here we have that inventory structure. Just one second. Maybe here we have. So inventory structure we have. So direct delivery means from the supplier directly will be taking that material into your inventory. Okay, directly will be taking that material into your inventory organization. Inventory means here I don't take into staging and all, directly I'll take into sub inventory. This process we call as direct delivery. Okay, that's how we'll be receiving the material into organization, that we call as direct delivery. Okay, when I talk about the second option, standard receipt. In case of standard receipt, what happens is, so you will take the material as a first step. There will be 2 steps. First you will take into staging. After taking into staging, from staging you will be moving the material into the respective inventory. This we call as standard receipt routing method. That means the total receiving will involve in the 2 steps. First we'll receive into staging, then we'll move into sub inventory. This we call as standard receipt. In direct delivery, directly we'll take the material into our inventory. It can be sub inventory or actual inventory, whatever we'll take. There won't be multiple steps in direct delivery. Directly we'll receive. Okay, there are no intermediate steps. But in case of standard receipt, first we'll take into staging, then from staging to sub-inventory. This process we call as standard receipt. An inspection required. When I talk about inspection, so here, yes, first step you may take into staging. After receiving the material into staging, what you will do is directly you are not going to move the material into sub-inventory. This material you may move for inspection. Okay, think there is some inspection department you have here. Okay, so you'll move to the inspection. After inspection is done, which material you are accepting, the accepted quantity only you'll be moving into the actual inventory. This process we call as inspection required receipt routing method. Okay, so the client may directly take the material into inventory, nothing but sub inventory, or else there may be process. First they'll take into staging, from staging they'll be moving into sub inventory. If inspection is required, in that case there will be additional step. They'll take into staging first, then they'll move to the inspection department or some other location where inspection can be conducted. There's a second step. Third step is after inspection, okay, whatever accepted by our organization, those will be moving into sub inventory. These three we call as receipt routing methods. Okay, just as a high level we have to understand, we are not going to do very detailed level since this is part of SCM, say like purchasing and inventory related process. So but this level of understanding is required for us. Any questions on this, please? Okay, so directly taking into inventory or taking first will other process we may take into sub staging, then we'll take into actual inventory, nothing but sub inventory. The third process could be first we'll take into staging, then we'll move for inspection. That means we'll do the inspection. The inspected material will be moving to sub inventory. Okay, so these are the three terms you have to understand when you talk about receipt routing method. Okay, direct delivery, standard receipt, and inspection required. And when you talk about this matching options, this is very, very important for us. Okay, it's very important for us because whatever the invoices we create in the payables, all invoices will be creating with these matching options only. 99% this is the process, hardly 1 or 2%. If required, client may create directly as a standalone invoice in the payables. Otherwise, the complete process will work based on this matching options. So as we take in the points at the time of setups, we have three type of matching options we have. One is two-way matching. Other one is three-way matching. And the other option is four-way matching. Okay, these are just very simple. So I'll take here invoice, PO, receipt, inspection. Okay, so fine. So what is the meaning of two-way matching? The two-way matching, what happens is we'll get invoice from the supplier. Okay, we'll get invoice from the supplier. Invoice we'll have from supplier. Other one is we'll have a purchase order. So whatever the invoice you create in the system, that invoice you'll be creating by cross-checking the invoice which you are receiving from your supplier as well as whatever the invoice you are receiving from your purchasing department, PO. Sorry, the invoice which you receive from the supplier as well as the PO which you get from the purchasing department. Based on these two records, will create the invoice. That is the reason we call as this is two-way matching. Two-way matching means two documents we are cross-checking. Say for example, supplier given on invoice. As per invoice, quantity is 100, unit price is 100. Okay, quantity is 100, unit price is 100. In that case, we'll get a 10,000. Invoice amount is 10,000. So if I'm going to enter, that may be wrong information. Okay, so that is the reason what we have to do is, okay, the price, unit price, supplier is giving as per invoice 100, but as per PO, what is the amount we have to see. Whether we place the order for 100 quantity or less than or more than, that information also we have to see. We have to cross check finally we have to make sure that the quantity or price are not exceeding. Okay, we have to make sure that those are not exceeding. The price is exceeding, yes, that's not a just a expected case where we are ready to make the payment to the supplier, right? We have to make sure that as per prior process which we followed with a more controlled manner and with respect to terms and conditions by purchasing department, between purchasing department or supplier, those we have to make sure that based on that only we are going to create the invoice. Okay, otherwise that whatever the payment you are making, the whatever the payment you are going to give, that maybe if you are not going to follow any controls directly, if you are going to create invoice, you may keep getting the invoice from supplier. Since there is no control in the organization, you'll keep making the payment also. There is no information you have which you can cross check and you can control the process which you are doing. So that is the reason always we will create invoice based on the purchasing department related information. If you are going to create invoice based on just PO information, that we call as two-way matching. Generally, when we create invoice with the PO, based on the PO, if the purchase order related to generally expense related purchase orders, generally we can go with the invoice creation based on the PO only. You may not look for the receipt information for invoice creation. Okay, so that's what we call as just two-way matching. In two-way matching, what we'll do, we'll create invoice based on invoice and PO information, or else simply you can say we'll create invoice and payables based on purchase order information. Okay, based on purchase order information. This is what we have to understand, and I'll add a few more points to this. And when I talk about three-way matching, we have to cross-check 3 documents. If you are going to create invoice, what is the invoice you received from the supplier, that you have to look into, and you have to look at the PO information from purchasing department, as well as you have to look at receipt information. That three-way matching means we are going to cross-check 3 documents. Based on these 3 documents only, we'll create the invoice that we call as three-way matching. Okay, that means in the simple way you can say, in three-way matching, we'll create the invoice based on PO and receipt information. Because if you are going to depend on PO, that may not be right information. Your PO says 100 quantity, your invoice also may says 100 quantity, but in between whatever you received may be 50 quantity. You should consider how much you received. That is the reason that information is available only in the receipt. So that is the reason you have to do three-way matching wherever it is applicable. Okay, where you are going to have a receipt. Normally when you are purchasing the goods and all, you do three-way matching. And four-way matching. In four-way matching, we'll just cross-check these 4 documents: invoice which we get from supplier, PO from purchasing department, receipt from purchasing department, and inspection document from inspection department or purchasing department, who will be responsible to do the inspection. From them we'll get this document. Across these 4 documents, we'll do the verification. We'll cross-check these 4 documents. Based on that only, we'll just create the invoice that we call as 4-way matching. Why we go with 3-way matching when we go with the 4-way matching? So whatever you are purchasing, if inspection is not required, we'll go with 3-way matching. If inspection is required, we'll go with the 4-way matching. This is how just we'll be creating these invoices and the payables. So this is our naming convention we have based on what information we are creating the invoice. So all the time you have to remember, for invoice creation and 2-way matching, we'll create based on PO. 3-way matching, invoice will create based on PO and receipt information. In 4-way, we'll create the invoice based on PO and receipt and inspection related information. When you talk about 2-way matching, what exactly will be considering? The 2-way matching, the invoice will have a invoice price and invoiced quantity. Okay, we'll have a invoiced price and invoiced quantity. In the PO, we'll have PO price and ordered quantity. These 2 parameters will cross check. So I got an invoice with invoice price as 100, invoice quantity as 100. that price and quantity is same as PO or not, we have to go and cross check. Okay, the same here also, same applicable. When I talk about receipt, just we have to consider, so in three-way matching, okay, we'll cross check between these parameters. Okay, sorry, PO I given, quantity, okay, fine, done. So here receipt, we have to see received quantity, we have to cross check. Okay, here also same you can take. And when I talk about inspection, accepted quantity. Now based on this, we'll talk on this once again. Okay, so I want to create invoice. I received invoice from my supplier. Okay, so in invoice I can see the invoice price as 100 quantity, and unit price is 100 and invoice quantity as 100. But straight away I should not go and create invoice. I have to cross check with the PO. The PO also price is same or not, and the quantity, whatever we place the order, the same or not, we have to verify. It can be less than whatever the invoice. See here, PO we placed, okay, PO we placed with 100 quantity. You may receive invoice for only 50 quantity, nothing wrong. Okay, anyway, the quantity for as per quantity only will be paying, but only the parameter here now we have to focus as per PO, what is the price, 100, but as per invoice price also same or not, these parameters we have to verify. If these are matching, then we can go ahead and we can create invoice. Okay, that means what we are going to verify, invoice price we are cross checking with the PO price, and invoice quantity you are cross checking with the ordered quantity. If these are matching, or it can be less also, it should not exceed, then we can go ahead and we can create invoice. When I talk about three-way matching, what we'll do, we'll cross check invoice price with the PO price and invoice quantity with ordered quantity and received quantity. These three should be same. Okay, final ultimately you will be creating invoice with the received quantity, but you have to cross check with these other documents. Reason, without PO there is no receipt normally. And when four-way matching, we are discussing invoice will create based on PO, receipt and inspection, but reality when you look into that detail, the invoice will invoice creation process will be matched. Okay, the invoice price will be matched with the PO price, and invoice quantity will be matched with ordered quantity, received quantity as well as accepted quantity. Finally, invoice will be created based on accepted quantity only. So this is how just we have to cross check across the documents to make sure that we are creating the proper document, so without going with wrong amounts and double time payments or etc. So this is how we have a control in the system for the invoice creation process with the two-way, three-way, four-way. So in which process which is required and which is applicable, accordingly clients will be using this. So we'll be creating all the invoices with this matching options only. Anyway, we'll be testing two-way, three-way, four-way, how to execute in the system. We'll see detail level. If you have any other questions, please on this. Any questions on this to understand what exactly two-way, three-way, four-way? Okay, fine. Seems to no questions. Fine, done. And we'll just look into any.
Laxman, I got a question.
Please.
Yeah, in the case of four-way matching, in case there is a supplier return. Okay, we just say we inspect some goods and we returns certain amount back to the supplier. The second time when the supplier delivers, does it go through the same process again?
No, that you have to take separately. Separate transaction you have to create. Okay, see, by the time you create invoice and all, say you received and there will be two cases. You received and before you go to create the invoice in the system, you may do the return. That is one case. And you receive the material and you create an invoice, then you are doing the return. If you are doing the return in that stage, then you have to reduce that amount from invoice. For that only we use the debit memo. When you do the purchase return, system will create debit memo automatically in the payables. Okay, you received,
Yes.
you not yet created invoice, now you are doing the returns, nothing is updated in the payables, you no need to create any debit memo to update that. So just you will be performing as returns. The remaining quantity and price only, the remaining quantity only will be creating invoice in the payables. That's how it works. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you. So now we'll talk about these purchase order types. Basically, we don't require these very much detail level, but since we're talking about purchasing, let's try to understand these. What is the purpose of these purchase orders and receipts requisition types? But in our classes, I'll take you through how to create the standard purchase order and do purchase requisition. That's all we don't require, but I'll just give you the understanding in which scenario we'll be using which type of purchase order and which type of requisition. Just for information purpose, I'm sharing. But reality will be creating standard purchase order and purchase requisition. That's enough for us. Okay, we don't need more than that. If you do all this, you will become finance and SCM consultant also, which is not required for us. Okay, fine. First we'll talk about standard purchase order. Okay, it's all about placing the order to supplier. What is the difference when you compare with other purchase orders? So standard purchase order means basically if you are going to purchase one time from the supplier without having any agreement. For one-time purchases, we can use the standard purchase order. Say I want to purchase the computer. That means I know which item I need. Okay, I know at what price I am going to purchase because supplier will be giving the quotation and all, right? I accepted, I am okay with the quotation. That means I know what price supplier can deliver. Okay, so I know what I want to buy. I know what is the price. I know how much quantity I have to buy, and I know when supplier has to deliver. Okay, and again I am not going to have any agreements or terms and conditions with the supplier. In that case, what are the purchase order we create that we call as standard purchase order. Simple way we can say, like for one-time purchases we can use standard purchase order when we know the complete information, what we want to buy, how much we want to buy, okay, where supplier has to deliver, what is the price and quantity, etc. All the information, and without having any agreement with the supplier, we can use the standard purchase order. Okay, that's the meaning of standard purchase order. When you talk about blanket purchase agreement, okay, in case of blanket purchase agreement also, we know what we need, how much quantity we need, what is the price. Okay, we need everything, but we are not sure on when we need it. When we need, normally we call a schedule. When supplier has to ship, when supplier has to supply that, when supplier has to supply, when we tell to the supplier when we need, accordingly supplier can supply. That means we know everything. Say for example, you are constructing the building, you need building material. Okay, you have one supplier who can supply. You know, like you need some cement bags, you need sand, you need iron, all items you know. And for entire building construction, how much quantity you require, everything you know. Okay, and you know where supplier, where you are constructing to, there only supplier has to supply, but you are not sure when you need which material, when you need, you are not sure, but still you are going to have agreement with the supplier saying that this is the material you have to supply and this is the price. Okay, so this is a location, this is a ship to location where you have to supply, but I'm not sure when I need. Whenever I require, I'll let you know, you should be ready to supply. That's how we'll have an agreement with the supplier. So since dates are missing when we need, that is the reason this we call as blanket purchase agreement. So blank, dates are blank, that simply we call as shipment schedules will be missing. We know everything. When you compare with the standard purchase order, in standard purchase order everything we know, but in the blanket purchase order we don't know shipment when we require. And other important difference is standard purchase order there won't be any agreement with the supplier, but here we'll have agreement for stipulated time period, saying that you may talk to the supplier saying that you have to support us for 1 year or certain duration. So that's how this blanket purchase order is different from standard purchase order. Now other one is contract purchase agreement. In case of contract purchase agreement, say you know one supplier who can supply what you need, but you are not sure what you need, when you need. In that case, simply you can have agreement with that supplier saying that So I'm going to, let's have agreement for say 20 lakhs, and you should support for 20 lakhs worth of the material, whatever I require, whenever I require. I'm not sure what I need, when I need, where I need, but let's get into the agreement. You should accept whatever, whenever, wherever I require. So that kind of agreements, we can use the contract purchase agreement. That means you are not going to mention, you are not going to specify which item you need, when you need, how much quantity you need, even you don't know the price. Nothing is known. Just only will be having contract with for certain amount for particular period. In that such kind of procurement requirements, you can use the contract purchase agreement. When you talk about planned purchase agreement, okay, when you talk about planned purchase agreement, you'll be knowing everything. So you'll be knowing everything, but you need it for long period. Okay, if you are going to buy one time, just use standard purchase order. If you want to buy for certain period, for long period purchases, so you need some material for 10 years or 5 years. Okay, you know what material you need, and you know how much quantity you need. Okay, you are okay with the price what supplier is offering, and where the material is required, shipment schedules, everything you know. But only the point is, okay, you need supplier who can agree with you to supply the required material for long period. There could be some lot of fluctuation in the market with respect to material supplies, etc., whatever it may be. So the supplier should ready to bear all those things. There can be many terms and conditions, whatever. So for long term purchases, by having agreement with the supplier, we can place the planned purchase agreement. So this is depending on the scenario, we can use this different type of purchase orders as a part of purchasing department. Okay, and when I talk about requisition, yeah, please.
Can you please repeat the last one, planned purchase agreement?
Yeah, plan in the sense you'll be having certain plan. You'll be having certain plan, what you need, when you need, how much you need, at what price you need. You have a certain plan for, you are going to do the project for 5 years. You know everything. You have a certain project plan, what material you need, when you need, where you need, all everything you know. But you are trying to find some supplier who can really supply for that long period by supplying required material within the time. For that, you will go and have an agreement with the supplier. So for that kind of orders, you can use the planned purchase agreement. Okay, fine. It's equal to standard purchase order. In standard purchase order, just one time, but it's not one time for long period. In standard purchase order, you don't see any agreement, but here for long period, with the agreement base only, will be running that complete transaction process. Fine. So this is what we have to understand very high level. When we talk about requisitions, we have two type of requisitions: purchase requisition and internal requisition. When we talk about purchase requisition, if there is any demand, in the organization, just will raise the requisition. It can be internal demand or external demand. Internal means internally we may require something, and external demand means there may be demand from the supplier, whatever it may be. If you want to go and buy from the supplier because of some demand, it can be internal or external. If you want to buy something from supplier, will raise purchase requisition. To purchase whatever you require from vendor, will raise the purchase requisition. Internal requisition means, say you need something in your warehouse, okay, or else in your branch. That material, if you want to buy from supplier, will go with the purchase requisition only. But you don't want to buy from the supplier, so you need some material, but that material you want to get from other branch or other inventory, other warehouse, you want to get it. So you have a requirement. The requirement you are going to fulfill with internal source of stock availability. So for that reason, if you want to get the material from other inventory, okay, so in that case we can raise the requisition called as internal requisition. Simple point: if you are going to get from supplier, if you want to get something from supplier, raise purchase requisition. If you are not going to get something from the supplier, just you want to manage within the organization by getting from other inventory, other warehouse, in that case you can raise the internal requisition. Okay, so this is what just we have to understand when we are going to work on requisition and purchase orders. So we don't need more than this. Okay, so anyway, we'll see the receipt creation, other process also. At that time we'll discuss what we have to understand being a financial functional consultant. Okay, we're not going to work as a CM to know more than this, not required. We have to primarily focus on that. Same time, what level of knowledge we require, we are trying to acquire the same. Any questions on these 2 points, purchase orders and requisitions, please? Any questions? Fine. So if no questions, we can proceed to next step. I think it's almost 9. Okay. We'll see in the tomorrow session. In tomorrow session, we'll see the complete process of requisition creation, and we'll create requisition within the approved limits, beyond the approved limits. Okay, and then based on that, we'll get approved by respective authority who has approved limits, and based on that, we'll create the purchase orders, and we'll create the receipt, and we'll create the invoice creation. We'll see how we can automate the complete process. So those points we'll be discussing in tomorrow's session. If you have any questions on today's session, please let me know. If not, on today's session, on previous classes, if you have any clarification, because when you go through these sessions, or when you are going through your note, when you are thinking and when you are practicing, you may get some doubts, or you may think you need some clarification on specific points. If you have those cases, please let me know. We can discuss now. Or else if you have any issues with instance or anything, please let me know. We can work on it. Please.
Laxman, you are going to put all these videos in the Google Drive, right?
Correct. I'll be just dropping now. Itself, I'll be dropping in that Google Drive. Hope you have access to that. I'm not going to send every day a separate mail for that. Just directly, I request.
Yeah, no, I don't have.
Download from it. Download. You can, once you see the video, you can download into your machine.
Yeah, I don't have the access. I don't have the access to it. Maybe because I didn't give a Gmail account, right? We have to give our email ID.
Yeah, please provide your Gmail account so that I'll be sharing today itself.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Any questions, please? Fine. Seems to no questions. We'll connect tomorrow same time, sharp 7 o'clock, and we'll just work on the process called as P2P cycle. Okay. So when you're practicing, if you have any issues, please you can mail us, and we can look into that, and we'll try to work on it before we. I mean, instead of waiting till we connect in the session, we can email and we can work.
Laxman.
Yep.
Laxman, that video, no, Google Drive. It's a please try to upload all the videos from class beginning. No, okay. I'm using YouTube only. I can see that.
Yeah.
So if it,
I'll do that.
Okay. Thanks. Okay.